This rolling counter visualizes a grim reality in the United States. Every 34 seconds, a person dies from a cardiovascular condition, a rate that climbs to over 919,000 deaths annually. The medical community has studied this crisis for decades. Heart disease has remained the leading cause of death nationwide for over 70 years. Beyond the immense human toll, these conditions drain the U.S. healthcare system of over $168 billion every single year in direct medical costs and lost productivity. Yet, despite producing such massive epidemiological numbers, the disease often operates entirely undetected. Roughly 20% of all heart attacks are clinically silent, causing permanent structural damage to the heart muscle without ever triggering a single symptom. To understand how this happens, we have to look past the top-line statistics and travel deep inside the human body to trace the exact decades-long biological lifespan of a cardiovascular event. A heart attack is rarely a sudden accident. It is the final, inevitable consequence of a silent cellular cascade that begins long before a patient ever feels a twinge of chest pain. This cross-section shows where the timeline begins. LDL cholesterol breaches the arterial endothelium. The body deploys macrophages to engulf the invaders, but they ingest too much lipid, transforming into trapped foam cells. Over decades, millions accumulate into a hardened plaque that chokes the vessel. This quiet structural buildup is the root cause of coronary artery disease, a pathology currently progressing inside the arteries of 1 in every 20 American adults. Everyday behavioral habits act as direct biological accelerants on this plaque buildup. The most common is high blood pressure, or hypertension, which affects nearly half of all adults in the U.S. As we can see in this fluid dynamics model, excess pressure creates mechanical friction, known as endothelial shear stress. This physically damages the arterial lining, making it much easier for cholesterol to penetrate in the first place. The timeline is further accelerated by highly processed diets and sedentarism. These lifestyle factors induce insulin resistance, which floods the bloodstream with circulating free fatty acids and drives up systemic inflammation. Similarly, environmental stressors like smoking or getting less than 6 hours of sleep deprive the cardiovascular system of necessary restorative repair. They keep the sympathetic nervous system on high alert and elevate cortisol levels. Eventually, this constant inflammatory stress weakens the protective cap of the plaque until it hits a breaking point. The plaque ruptures open, exposing the highly reactive tissue underneath directly to the passing bloodstream. This exposure triggers an immediate panic response. Platelets aggregate at the rupture site in seconds, forming a blood clot, a thrombus, that acutely chokes off the final supply of oxygen to the heart muscle. The modern lifestyle doesn't passively contribute to heart attacks. It actively constructs the exact biochemical environment required for the artery to fail. But epidemiological models offer a clear way out. Because this is a gradual, mechanical process, it is highly modifiable and largely preventable. This chart maps the American Heart Association's Life's Essential 8. These are specific biological interventions to dismantle plaque. For example, 150 minutes of weekly aerobic exercise forces the endothelium to release nitric oxide, actively dilating blood vessels and easing shear stress. From a nutritional standpoint, swapping out saturated fats for unsaturated fats physically forces the human liver to adapt its structure. It creates more receptors to pull excess LDL cholesterol out of the blood before it can penetrate the arterial walls. Protecting your sleep cycle for 7 to 9 hours turns down the sympathetic nervous system, while a lower body mass index directly relieves mechanical strain on the heart's left ventricle. This comparative timeline graph shows the massive payoff of these interventions. Adults who optimize these cardiovascular metrics by age 50 gain an average of 8.1 to 8.9 additional year life expectancy compared to those who don't. More importantly, those gained years represent an expansion of health span. That extra decade is typically spent highly active and free from major chronic medical conditions. Atherosclerosis is a relentless cellular process, but the clinical data is clear. We already possess the precise behavioral tools required to completely halt its timeline and secure our biological future.